Go. Welcome to Gita Wisdom. It's March 25th, Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Welcome. Trish, how you doing?
Hi, Lakshmi.
Hi.
Background on.
Okay. Good to see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
So let's begin right on time this time, okay? All right. So we're going to be reading from the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, and we'll do verses at least three. I think I left off at 3. We'll go 3 through 9 and see how we're doing with that. Just want to turn off the sound of my phone here. Okay, ready to go. All right, so chapter 1, we've discussed the importance of the very first verse and the importance of Dharma, and also introduced you to King Dhritarashtra and Sanjaya, who are the secondary dialogue within Bhagavad Gita. The primary dialogue, of course, is with Krishna and Arjuna. So, but it begins with a discussion, uh, actually a question posed by King Dhritarashtra to Sanjaya, his teacher. Sanjaya is the student of Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva is the compiler of the Vedic wisdom, the Mahabharata, which includes Bhagavad Gita and many other Vedic texts. So both Sanjaya is a very realized soul. I think I discussed this also. He was gifted by his teacher, Vyasadeva, with special vision where he could, mystic vision, where he could actually see real time what was taking place on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. So he was giving the Dhritarashtra real-time account of what was happening at the time. And so we discussed the first verse where Dhritarashtra was asking the question, what is going to happen here? They're on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. It's a Dharma Chetra. It's the place of Dharma Chetra, Kurukshetra. It's the Kuru, the field of activities, Kurukshetra, and they're lined up against each other. And what is going to happen? And so Sanjaya, being given this gift of mystic vision by Vyasadeva, he's able to look and see almost as if he's viewing, on a TV what is going on. He sees real time what's going on. So the very first question that Dhritarashtra asks is kind of a past tense question. He's asking not like what's going on right now, because it's evident what's going on is the two armies are facing each other and they're about to do a battle. But actually, why has this all transpired in the way that it has? So it's a question that is addressed by most of the dialogue throughout the rest of the Bhagavad Gita. So the second verse, Sanjaya answers him by saying, "O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhan went to his teacher and spoke the following words." So we have here the situation where Sanjaya responds that now he's giving the setting. What is transpiring, the setting? So the setting is you see Duryodhan. He is the son of Dhritarashtra, and he's really the protagonist of this war. This war would not be even happening if it wasn't for Duryodhan's greed. He wants he wants the empire. He wants to be the king. even though he is not the one in succession. Arjuna and his brothers are the rightful heirs to the throne. But Duryodhana does everything within his power to try to stop Arjuna, Yudhisthira, Bhima, Nakula, and Sahadev, the five Pandavas, from gaining their rightful position as the Yudhisthira is the oldest. He's older than Arjuna. I think Yudhisthira is oldest, Bhima is second oldest, Arjuna is middle child, like me, middle child, and then there's not Sahadev and Nakula. They're the twins. They're the youngest. So these five, Yudhisthira being the oldest, he actually takes the throne or should take the throne as king, and the four brothers help him by being serving as ministers in various capacities. So King Duryodhana is like the first that we see, the first that we're really introduced to, besides the introduction that comes with King Dhritarashtra, the blind king that I spoke about, who's blind not just materially but spiritually blind too, and blind to Dharma. He's really not really understanding, or it's not that he doesn't understand, that would be not accurate. It's that he is too attached. He understands what Dharma is, he understands what his duty should be, but he's just attached to his children, and specifically his elder son, Duryodhana. He's very attached to him, and he kind of gives in to Duryodhana's desire. Even though Duryodhana is doing all kinds of things, he tried to assassinate them, the Pandavas, by burning them alive in a house that he had especially built for them. And it was a very flammable substance that he had the house built in. He tried to poison Bhima, put poison in his food. He tried so many things. I mean, this is kind of what goes on, amongst royalty, especially when you have someone who's not capable or qualified to be in the position and that he wants to be in, and then he tries in many different ways. We see this throughout history. If you study, the history of England, the history of Europe, France, etc., you have these intrigues that go on, and this is the result of greed. When a person who is not qualified is greedy and really wants something, then they'll do anything in their power to get what exactly they want. According to the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedic literatures, a person is only uh, allowed to be king or emperor if they're qualified. One of the Sanskrit words in the Bhagavad Gita, which is used, which describes the qualified king, is Rajarshi. And Rajarshi is a compound word, Raja and Rishi. Raja means king, Rishi means saintly person. So that's the definition of a qualified king. He actually is a representative of God. Even throughout history, like in England, for instance, the kings were deemed the God here on earth. You look in ancient Egypt, the pharaohs were God here on earth. So, according to the Bhagavad Gita, Raja Rishi means that they represent God and his laws. For instance, Dharma is the law of the universe that the king is supposed to make sure happens, that Dharma prevails, and the king is supposed to be the embodiment of Dharma. So what we have in Duryodhana is not the embodiment of Dharma, quite the opposite. The opposite of Dharma is adharma, which means not dharmic at all, not following the laws that are there, the responsibility that one has to the citizenry, the duty, the sacred duty, the obligation, responsibility, all in line with the sacred laws that are found within the various sacred texts of the Vedas. There's even a section of the Vedas called Dharma Shastra. And Dharma Shastra means that the sacred book, which outlines how humanity is supposed to behave towards each other, towards oneself, within the family, etc. There are very good and clear guidelines. So it was obvious because the guidelines are clear, it was obvious that Duryodhan was not interested in following the guidelines of Dharma. He was more interested in obtaining what he wanted to obtain. He wanted the throne, and therefore he was willing to do anything, dharmic or otherwise. And most of the things that he did were otherwise. They weren't when they weren't dharma. So these first verses of the Bhagavad Gita we're going to go over is interesting because it gives us the mindset, the politician mindset of Duryodhana. He's your politician. He's you know manipulating things and trying to do things in such a way that he sets it up the way he wants it. The way he wants to have the whole scenario play out. So he says the second verse, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and spoke the following words. So this is three. O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. So this is Duryodhana going to his teacher, Dronacharya. And Dronacharya plays a major role because he is him. He is not a warrior. There's a few personalities on the side of the Kurus that are not warriors. They are Brahmins, and Brahmins means the intellectuals, the priestly, those that are more concerned with study and teaching and different religious rituals, etc. So Dronacharya is a very unique personality in this cast of characters, in that he's not a warrior, even though he's capable of doing battle, because his expertise, what he taught, was how to be a warrior. Even though he wasn't a warrior, he knew all of the laws and principles and the art form of warfare. He knew it personally. So he was an important character in that regard. The second regard, why was he an important character? He was the guru of most of the warriors, especially the, uh, the extreme ones, the Maharathas, the real powerful warriors. He was their teacher. So he had students on both sides. Dronacharya taught Arjuna and Bhima and Yudhisthira and Sahadeva and Nakula, the five Pandavas. He taught them how to fight, how to be military men. But on the other side, he also instructed Duryodhana. And Duryodhana had 99 brothers. Uh, um, he taught the Duryodhana and his 99 brothers how to be warriors. So Dronacharya's position was unusual in the sense that number one, he was a Brahmin, and number two, he was the warrior guru for warriors on both sides. So what does that say? he had an affection for his students. It's quite natural if a teacher has students and the students are good students. It's quite natural that they develop a relationship. So Dronacharya had an affection for his students. Now, this posed a problem in the mind of Duryodhana. Why? He was afraid that Drona would, out of his affection for his students, um, the Pandavas, he would not fight to his full capacity, and he would not lead them to his full capacity because out of affection, he would not, give his all in all. Duryodhana had that fear. So what does Duryodhana do? One instance of his mind being adharmic, not proper dharma, was the proper etiquette is you go to your teacher and you ask for blessings. You ask for number one permission, you ask for blessings. That's the proper thing, the proper etiquette thing to do. Does Duryodhana do that? No. He goes to the battlefield and he observes the armies first. And then when he observes the armies and he sees, even though his army outnumbers the Pandava army, it's something like you have, let's see, 11 Akshahinis as opposed to 7 Akshahinis. So you're looking at something like maybe 350 million warriors on the Kuru side and 200 to 250 on the Pandava side. So there was quite a sizable difference in numbers of warriors. But that did not scare Duryodhana or enliven Duryodhana. He became a little fearful because he saw the talent that had amassed against him, that had taken the Pandava side. He looks at the army and he sees the quality and the skill of the warriors that are aligned against him. And this makes him a little bit nervous. So he says in the third verse, "Oh, my teacher," he's talking to Dronacharya, "behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada." So what is he doing here? He's expressing to Dronacharya, okay, 2 points he's making here. Behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, your disciples. These boys you trained. So behold your students who are so adept at warfare due to your training. So he's kind of throwing a dig in there to Dronacharya. He's trying to get Dronacharya angry. He's trying to get Dronacharya in the mood to put aside his affection for the Pandavas and be the killing machine that he can be. So he points out here the great army of the sons of Pandu, who are your disciples, who you trained. So that's one thing he did. So expertly arranged by, again, he brings this point up, by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada. Now, he doesn't mention the name of the son of Drupada. Why? The name of the son of Drupada is Drishtadyumna. But he doesn't say Drishtadyumna. He says, by your intelligent disciple, again, he's throwing a little jab in there. You trained him. But here's the key, the son of Drupada. Now, Drupada is a king, and Dronacharya has history, and not so good a history. It was good at first, but it soured. So Dronacharya has a history with Drupada, and that's why he brings up the name. He's the son of the king of Drupada because Dronacharya and Drupada. Here's the backstory. They went to school together. Now, Drupada was a prince when he went to school, when they were schoolboy age. Dronacharya was from a poor Brahmin family, but the teacher of both Drupada and Dronacharya was Dronacharya's father, and he was a poor Brahmin. Dronacharya was a poor Brahmin. Drupada, because the teacher, Dronacharya's father, was such a good teacher, the king's father, Drupada's father, placed him in that school. The school is called Gurukula. It is the place where the teacher resides and teaches his disciples, Gurukula. So Drupada and Dronacharya were classmates and they were friends. So they were of different social status and economic status. So in the course of their friendly discussions, Dronacharya says, will you, when you become king, because you're a prince, will you forget me? Will you forget all about our friendship? And Drupada tells Dronacharya, no, no way. You're my friend for life. And in fact, I'll give you half the kingdom. You're such a close friend of mine. You're so dear to me. I'll give you half of the kingdom. So when they grow and they leave the school, and Drupada goes to the royal court, and eventually he does become king. Drona goes to his position as being Brahmin. He has a wife, he has children, but he's poor. So in his poverty, his wife reminds him, "Hey, your good friend Drupada is now king, and we're hurting so badly for money. Why don't you go? He made a promise to you when you were schoolmates that he would give you half of his kingdom. We don't have anything. We don't have any cows. We don't have anything. We're very poor. So why don't you go and remind him of the promise that he made?" So he does. Based on his wife's encouragement, Dronacharya goes and sees Drupada, who is now king. And Drupada snubs him, and Dronacharya says, well, don't you remember we were best friends? And don't you remember the promise that you made in the height of our friendship? The promise that you made to me that you would give me half the kingdom? And I don't even want half the kingdom. Can you give me, some donation, some charity so that I can survive, I can support my family? And Drupada snubs him. He says, "No, you're just a poor Brahmin. You're no friend of mine." Anyway, Dronacharya becomes very, very angry at that snub. And eventually, what happens is he has students, and what when you have a student, the etiquette within this culture, this Vedic culture, the etiquette is if you're a student, you should, out of gratitude, give your teacher a gift. It's called dakshini. You should give out of gratitude. You appreciate what your teacher has done for you, and in gratitude for what the teacher has given you, the knowledge that the teacher has given you, there is what is called dakshini. And this tradition still exists today. Now, dakshini doesn't mean you have to give a lot of money, you give according to your means. So the dakshini that Dronacharya asked from his students was they were to do something for him. And what was that? They were to go and get Drupada and capture Drupada and bring him before me. So several disciples tried to do that. They couldn't do that. Jupiter was a great warrior. He had an incredible army, and he couldn't do that. Several disciples. So Arjuna took up took the lead, and he goes and he defeats Drupada, and he brings him before Dronacharya. And Dronacharya, um, at that time, takes the half of the kingdom. I think it was called Panchali, the kingdom that Drupada was in charge of, and so Dronacharya takes half of that. So it's very difficult for warriors to forget when they're humiliated. It's very difficult. So Drupada, on the other hand, he doesn't forget this, what Dronacharya did, taking half of his kingdom in the way that he did. So what he does is he prays and performs this grand ceremony, grand ritual, and prays for a son that will be uh, a strong warrior that he can defeat Dronacharya. And that's what happens. Drupada gets his blessing of a strong warrior son, Drishtadyumna, and that's why here Duryodhana says the son of Drupada. He wants to remind Dronacharya that you have this enmity, you have this history, and so he's actually just trying to get Dronacharya fired up to do battle with all of his power, with all of his might against the Pandavas. So we'll see as these verses go on how he Duryodhana continues. He continues to jab at him to try to get him more and more angry. Text 4. Here in this army are many heroic bowmen, equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna, great fighters like Yudhana, Virata, and Drupada. So again, he mentions names. In total, Duryodhana is going to mention, out of all the numerous warriors that are there, he's going to name 17 to Dronacharya, because the 17 names that he brings up are names of warriors that are on the equivalent of Arjuna and his brothers. So he's saying to him, look, these are warriors. These are fierce warriors. Another thing to note, even though on Arjuna's side, he is outnumbered, he has tremendously powerful warriors. And Duryodhana is going to mention those powerful warriors to make Dronacharya understand, hey, okay, we outnumber them, but these are real fighters. These are Maharathas. That means warriors that can defeat 1,000 warriors at a time. So that's one thing he's saying. The second thing he's saying is that um, they're on the equivalent of Bhima, Arjuna's brother, and Arjuna. And just Bhima and Arjuna are so powerful warriors that they can cause great deal of difficulty. So Duryodhana is saying, hey, this is something that we have to be afraid of, because, you know, these are powerful warriors. And notice who he mentions a second time. He repeats Drupada's name. He knows there is this history between Drupada and Dronacharya. So again, he mentions Drupada. Hey, and by the way, your enemy, Drupada, is there. Oh, did I happen to mention that Drupada is there on the other side? So twice he says there. Again, he's jabbing him. He's trying to get him fired up. So then we have five, text five. There are also great, heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Katiraj, Purujit, Kuntiboj, and Saibya. The difference, one thing that's kind of getting Duryodhana a little nervous is that he has powerful warriors like Dronacharya and Bhishma, but they have relationships with the Pandavas. So what is the difference? The warriors on Arjuna's side have allegiance to Arjuna. Why? Because Arjuna and his brothers are compassionate, noble-minded individuals. And in some of these cases, they helped these particular personalities. For instance, I told you the story of Drupada. Then you notice he mentions the name um, powerful fighters like Justiketu, Chaitanya, Kasiraj, Purujit, Kuntiboja, and Shaibya. And then later on, he mentions a warrior named um, Virata. Well, he already mentioned Virata, I think. Yes, he did. And four, he mentions Virata. Now, both Drupada and Virata, we know the story of Drupada. We went over that. Virata was a king who was greatly indebted to Arjuna because what had happened is Virata was a king and he had a burgeoning kingdom. It was growing and it was prosperous. And the Duryodhana knew this about Virata's situation. He knew that Virata was a great king. He had a kingdom that was growing and growing and immensely wealthy. So Duryodhana, prior to the Battle of Kurukshetra, some years prior, he attacked Duryodhana and his brothers and their army attacked Virata and they actually were able to overwhelm Virata, even though Virata was a great fighter himself. It was Arjuna, and they captured Virata, and they took a lot of his wealth. And when Arjuna found this out, Bhima actually found out, and Bhima told Arjuna that this had happened. So Arjuna vowed to get Virata back, and he did. He did battle with Duryodhana at that point, and his army, and he defeated the whole Duryodhana and his army, and he was able to save Virata from, from the embarrassment of being captured and having his kingdom stolen from him. So Virata was greatly uh, appreciative of Arjuna and his brothers and what they did for him. So when it came to pass that there was going to be this war over the empire, Virata was one of the kings that aligned with uh, Arjuna and his brothers. So we see a difference in motivation in terms of the players in this battlefield. A lot of the kings and warriors that were fighting for Duryodhana were on his payroll. For instance, Karna. Karna, we'll come to Karna's name in the next couple of verses here. Karna was indebted to Duryodhana because he felt he was disrespected. Karna was actually a Kshatriya, but no one knew who his family was. And he was actually raised by foster parents. And the foster parents were poor. They weren't noblemen. But nobody really knew that. The only person who knew that was Krishna. So Karna was greatly indebted to Duryodhana because Duryodhana elevated him to a position of king. He actually gave him a kingdom. So you have people, Dronacharya was obliged to Duryodhana because he was a Brahmin and he was kind of like receiving money from Duryodhana. So it was a different dynamic. Those that were aligning with Duryodhana, those kings, those warriors that were aligning with Duryodhana and their motivation, and those warriors that were aligning themselves with Arjuna and the Pandavas, they recognized the great qualities and the qualifications of the five Pandavas. And therefore, out of gratitude, indebtedness, appreciation for their qualities, they they were committed. They were convinced that these boys should actually be the rulers. Whereas a lot of uh, uh, one of the warriors that aligned with Duryodhana was a real sneaky cheater named Shakuni. He was from Afghanistan, from the kingdom which is now called Afghanistan, the country which is now called Afghanistan. He was from that lineage, but he was related to Dhritarashtra, I think through marriage. I think it was his sister married Dhritarashtra. Her name was Gandhari. And Shakuni was a real conniving, evil type person. And he aligned himself with Duryodhana because he was a dharmic too. He didn't believe in the principles of Dharma either. He was more in line with greed and get whatever you want in whatever way that you can. So these are the types of personalities that you see is on the side of Duryodhana. And so verse 6, there are mighty Yudamanyu, the very powerful Uttamoja, the son of Subhadra, and the sons of Draupadi. All these warriors are great chariot fighters. So these are the various names of who's fighting for Arjuna on the Pandava side, and they're all great personalities and sons of great mothers. The son of Draupadi. Draupadi is a great queen, and she's the daughter of King Drupada, and and Subhadra is also a great queen. So her son is fighting. The sons of Draupadi are fighting. All these warriors are great chariot fighters. So he Duryodhana, in order to try to manipulate Dronacharya into anger, he's naming all these great warriors. And then he after he puts forward the prowess or the power of the Pandava army, he says, "But for your information, O best of the Brahmins," meaning Dronacharya, "let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force." Notice that "my" in there. Arjuna and the Pandavas did not consider their army their army. It wasn't that, it was my army. It was warriors, like-minded believers and followers of Dharma fighting together to stop adharma, the ruler of adharma, Duryodhana. They were to stop. So it was their army. But here, symptom of the pride of Duryodhana and how his mind works, he said, "Look at all these captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force." Now you have Bhishma there, who's part of Duryodhana's army. And Bhishma is the greatest of all of their warriors. He doesn't even mention Bhishma yet. So that's another um, another display of bad etiquette. In text 8, he'll say, there are personalities like you, Dronacharya. Now, Dronacharya, according to etiquette, should not have been mentioned first. Bhishma should have been mentioned first. Bhishma is a warrior, number one. Number two, he's the greatest of the warriors. Number three, he's the general. Number four, he's considered like the grandsire of the whole Kuru dynasty, both on the Pandava side and on the Kuru side, Duryodhana's side. So here we're getting further insight. He's clever. He knew that Bhishma was a Kshatriya and Drona was a Brahmin. And according to the etiquette, because he was a great Kshatriya, Bhishma should have been mentioned first. He should have been honored, let's put it that way. Honored first. Should have been respected first because he was such a respectable warrior. But he doesn't do that. He was the commander in chief. So because he was the commander in chief, that respect should have been there. But he doesn't do that. He's coming at Dronacharya in different ways. There's actually, according to the Vedic paradigm, there's four types of people. The first type is those who act according to for others' welfare. They are compassionate people, and really, um, that's okay, Amy. Thanks for attending. Um, the first type of person is the compassionate person, that he or she has the ability to act not just for their welfare, their own welfare, but selflessly for the welfare of others. And this is considered the highest level of people when they're categorized in this way. The second time are those that people that they act for their own self-interest. And if they by chance can help others, they'll do that. But their interest is their primary interest. But if they are um, in a situation where they can help someone, they'll help someone. So the first type of person is a compassionate person, and that person can look out primarily for the welfare of others. The second type, self-interested, but if they have the opportunity to help someone, they will. But their primary interest is to help themselves. The third person is purely self-interested. If others are harmed, they don't really care. Their interest is of primary importance, and others' interest, it's not important at all, even if it means others will be harmed at the at the expense of this self-interested person trying to get what they want. If they're harmed, then it's okay because they're interested, they're self-interested. So that's the third type of person. One is purely self-interested. The second one has their own self-interest in mind primarily, but if they can help, they will help. But it's not of primary importance. And the first, compassionate, they are motivated by helping others. And the last type, the fourth type of person, is one who doesn't care at all for the well-being of others. They actually derive great pleasure in causing trouble to others, and they enjoy that. They always have this vindictive mind. What do you see going on now today in politics, right? What do you hear as one of the primary words from the politicians' mouths today? Weaponization, right? They're using that word weaponization. Oh, you're weaponizing the Justice Department, you're weaponizing this, you're weaponizing that. And all they have in mind is hurting their opponents. There is no consideration. Everything they do. Did you ever notice that? I just know, I just out of curiosity, sometimes I listen to the news, and everything from one side that the other side is doing is wrong and vindictive and weaponized, etc. And then vice versa. The other side says the same thing about the other side. So this is the fourth type of person. It's actually in terms of character, it's the lowest character. And yet we see in our politicians today, they possess that low character. They're willing to, you know, badmouth and implicate others in so many ways. According to the Vedic paradigm of types of people, that's the lowest person. The highest person has the welfare and concern and compassion for other people. Now, most people, unfortunately, fit in the category of two and three. Most people are, well, actually, the last three categories are there. There are very few people who have others' welfare in mind. And so these are the four types of people that are there. And we're seeing here, we're getting some insight into the mindset of Duryodhana compared to Arjuna. We'll see Arjuna's mindset later on in this chapter. Text 8. Duryodhana continues to try to get Dronacharya riled up, and also now he brings Bhishma into the mix. There are personalities like you and Bhishma and Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the son of Somadat called Burishvala, who are always victorious in battle. Now, as I mentioned before, these personalities, yes, they're great warriors, but they also, both Dronacharya and Bhishma, have an affection for their opponents, the Pandavas. And that's what Duryodhana is worried about. Karna doesn't. This is why Karna is mentioned here. Karna hates them, hates the Pandavas, because he was always bested by the Pandavas when they were growing up, and even the Pandavas at one point in time insulted Karna. So he's motivated. Bhishma, not so much. He knows duty. He knows he's supposed to support the king and his son, but Bhishma has an affection. So he names these seven different personalities, and he says, they are great warriors. Text 9. There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons and are all experienced in military science. Text 10. Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. So he says here that um, they are nothing in comparison to those that are fighting for me. The first word in this text, in this verse, is aparyaptam. That means immeasurable. Our strength is immeasurable. And this is explained by one of the acharyas that this means that it's the opposite meaning, that our strength is immeasurable means our strength. When you have to brag about yourself, when someone is really, really powerful or really, really good, they don't have to brag about themselves. They don't have to say anything because their action is speaks volumes. So the first thing that Duryodhana says in his statement is, "We're immeasurable, our power," but it actually is indicative of the insufficiency of his potency. It's the opposite. So our acharyas, our teachers of the past, point this particular thing out. That again, to try to demonstrate the weakness of an adharmic principle. You're not strong when you're irresponsible and you're not duty bound. You're weak and cowardly. So this is being pointed out here. He says, "Our strength is immeasurable and we are perfectly protected." And he said, "My army, this is my army, and the Pandavas, they're weak, they're limited." Text 11. "All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army." So, he gives his pitch. Duryodhana gives his pitch, and he gives his word jugglery and manipulation to get everyone, ready to fight for him. But the way he does it is indicative of his mindset. And that is the mindset of someone who is self-interested, the type of personality that is self-interested. So I'll stop here for any questions or comments, any observations that one may have.
I
And,
do.
and is that you?
Eh,
Yes, Anurag, Angelica, how are you?
Good, good. No, I understood everything, but there's one point that it goes back to the um, portion of what it says that I'm just a little confused on the
Okay.
um, Arjun. Arjun, it's I'm not sure. It's who's father of Arjun?
Pandu.
Andu. Okay, and what is
I'll backtrack historically. Pandu was the emperor, and
yeah?
he was loved. Dhritarashtra is the brother of Pandu, so he's the uncle of the Pandavas, Arjuna and his brothers. Dhritarashtra, the blind king that's being spoken to by Sanjaya,
Uh huh.
and who has the sons. Duryodhana is the son of Dhritarashtra.
Uh-huh.
They're all related. This is a intra
Yeah, but
persona.
what I'm confused is that is Drupada on the side of Arjuna?
Yes, yes,
But you
he is.
okay, but you mentioned that um I'm a little confused with the names, but you mentioned that Arjuna brought Drupada in front of the king. They pretty much
Dronacharya. But
yes.
Drupa did not hold that against
Uh,
Arjuna
okay,
because he knew he was requested uh,
by
by his um,
teacher.
guru Dronacharya.
Yeah.
So Drupada did not hold that against
Yeah,
him.
I was thinking, how can Drupada be on the side of Arjuna if he brings him in front of the teacher? You
Yeah,
know?
because Drupada was attacked by Duryodhana,
Okay.
and Arjuna saved him, saved
Oh,
his kingdom. Yeah,
okay.
also there
Okay.
was
That's what I
so
was.
Arjuna,
Okay.
and you see who's doing the attacking? Duryodhana. Who's doing the saving? Arjuna and his brothers. They're always coming to the aid. They're always standing up for what's right. That's Dharma. That's the meaning of Dharma, that doing the right thing at the right time. And the Pandavas throughout their history, they're always doing that. And the other thing is they recognize Krishna for who he is as the supreme being. Whereas Duryodhana didn't. He hated Krishna. He just because he knew Krishna was so powerful that Krishna could destroy him and his army and everything. And that's one of the reasons why Krishna didn't fight. Krishna said, if I fight, it wouldn't be fair. I by myself I can destroy all the or Duryodhana's armies. So I'm not even going to fight, so it's a fair fight. Knowing that the Pandavas were powerful warriors, and in and of themselves they could defeat Duryodhana, even though they were outnumbered. So Krishna doesn't fight. But you see, they always try to do the right thing, and they always pay heed to Krishna's instructions. It gives you the difference, the distinction in mindsets between good and evil in this regard, in terms of the two uh, main protagonists, which is Duryodhana, he's the main protagonist, and his father, Dhritarashtra. You see the difference in mindset, the blindness in terms of understanding, the ability to understand that the way life, and this is a lesson for us, the way our life progresses nicely is by being good people, not by taking advantage of people. And we have an understanding that if we do the right thing, we act properly, that the law, we're in sync with the law of the universe. And therefore our life is peaceful and flows very smoothly. But for people who are breaking the laws of Dharma, and they may have success, but they don't have happiness. You see, inner happiness, fulfillment. The Sanskrit word for that is santosh, and that means contentment. They don't have that, and they can never achieve that because they're going against the laws of Dharma, basically the laws of God, according to Bhagavad Gita. So that's why. And we'll get some insight into Arjuna's mind a little later on in the first chapter. Anyone else have any question or comment regarding?
Yes. Thank you again, Lakshmi, for the class. So when I was reading the introduction of the Bhagavad Gita, one of the things that really stood out for me was it said that by reading it, and specifically by getting a teacher to help you understand it, that you would learn how to see Krishna in the spiritual sky.
Yes.
And it was it's such a beautiful image for me, and it's something that's really stuck with me since I started reading it.
One of the things, there are many yoga systems, right? And we discussed yoga means many things, but one of the things that Krishna talks about in the beginning stages of the Bhagavad Gita is that yoga means methodology. And methodology of what? The method of obtaining or linking up or connecting with the divine, with the supreme. Bhakti yoga is the method of linking up with the supreme through love and devotion and service. So bhakti yoga is considered the yoga of grace. It's the yoga by which you are a recipient of the vision to see God, to experience God, and to rejuvenate or revive or reconnect with that loving relationship. It comes when he gives of himself. Krishna says very clearly in the Bhagavad Gita, I think it's in the fourth chapter, he says, as you give of yourself, then I reward accordingly. And really, it's a principle of relationship, is it not? That if a person is very nice to you, aren't you inclined to be very nice to them? You know? So that principle is a principle of relationship. What to speak of the relationship between the Supreme and us? Krishna says, you give yourself to me fully, I give myself to you fully. So that's why we're able to see, in the introduction, it's mentioned, we're able to actually see and experience that love. Love is an experience. Love is the experience of selflessness, the desire to please my beloved is more important than my desire to be pleased. We cannot place ourselves in that position unless we're in love. We feel a love relation, a love experience towards another. And therefore we're willing to give. And when that willingness to give of oneself is there, there's reciprocation. Just like when someone's kind to you, you want to be kind to them. When someone's considerate to you, you want to also show that consideration. When someone's respectful to you, you reciprocate with respect. It's natural in the formation and development of a relationship. And similarly, Krishna says in the Gita that if you want to establish that relation, that love relationship with me, then what you are offering, then I reciprocate accordingly. So yeah, that's a nice observation from your reading. Thank you for sharing that with us. Any other question or comment in this regard? We'll continue. I guess we'll begin with, we just read 11. So next class, I'll read 11 again and we'll begin 12. And we'll try to take it up to when it switches to Arjuna's mindset. We've gotten a good sampling of how Duryodhana is thinking here. And now we'll get some insight into the mindset of Arjuna. So until next week, next Tuesday, same time, same station, you all have a very happy, healthy, and holy week. And can't wait to see you all again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Trish and Anuradha, Joanna,
Thank you
Gokulapriya.
very much. I'm sorry I was late. I thought it was 8
That's
o'clock.
okay.
Sorry.
Oh, no problem. 7
I'm,
to 8
I'm
every
grateful.
Tuesday.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
Okay, look forward to seeing you all next week.
Bye.
All right.
Until that time.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.